Hello, folks. JD Wessel back here with another edition of the Wildcat Breakdown. Today I'm joined by four other gentlemen, but you can call us the Five Amigos. So, guys, let's just go around this little circle we have going, and everyone just say their names so you can be specialed in this episode.
Oh, Craig Sullivan.
Andrew Pfeiffer.
Jack Ward.
Jaden Cover.
And of course, JD Wessel. Folks, it is great to be back. Today, our topic of choice is Millard West baseball. And we're going to kind of be going around, just everyone give their opinion on how the season's going. Obviously, this team is 7-4. And Craig, I want you to begin because, me and you were kind of the two that, keep Millard West kind of on our radar all throughout the season, kind of keep up on them. So, go ahead.
Yeah, well, Millard West recently is on a 2-game losing streak, losing 1-0 to Elkhorn and 3-4 to Millard North. In the Elkhorn game, Colby Gomez pitched pretty well, but the offense couldn't get going. And against Millard North, Peyton Wendell and Brock Burling each gave up runs. The Wildcats lost in 10 innings, JD. Not too much else to really explain there. I mean, you got to get a little bit better. But on the season, they're still 7-4.
For sure. And, looking at what this team was supposed to be coming into the season, they were ranked number 1 in the state. And a lot of people were talking that this might be the year for Coach Fry and his team, and obviously Coach Fry, I believe, is a 2 or 3 year coach for Millard West. I believe 2 is the number, but he definitely has the talent there, and a lot of people, Millard West, whether we like to say it or not, we usually have the talent to do something special year in and year out, and obviously, we had years with Cole Stobie and Ryan Merrill, 2 players who are currently in the minor leagues, which just kind of goes to show that Millard West does have the talent pretty much year in and year out. And I think this year being ranked number 1, having a starting pitching staff that, all 4 or 5 of those guys could be a starting, the number 1 pitcher for a lot of schools around Omaha. I think that just goes to show that, this team, they have issues year in and year out, and one I want to kind of touch on is the chemistry. I think a lot of these guys on this Millard West team, they, don't get me wrong, this is a team that they enjoy the moment, but I'd say a lot of them are kind of on different pages. Looking at them play, a lot of them, they don't really play for everyone. I think a lot of them play for themselves, and that can happen in all sports. What do you think, Jaden?
Well, one of the tough things about baseball that sports like football and basketball don't have to deal with as much is in baseball, by the time this time rolls around, all the seniors on the team, they already know where they're going to college. They've already signed their letter of intent with other schools, so they're already training not only for the upcoming season but for what they need to do in the season after that in college, which let's be honest, to a lot of these guys, especially Colby Gomez, where he's going to Nebraska, what he's doing next year is a lot more important to him than what he's doing this year. So, you get guys in football where, they're not signing until February after the season. So they're still playing to try to figure out what school they're going to. I just think baseball has that weird, time where your senior year, you've somewhat mentally checked out of high school baseball.
For sure, I got you on that. And, Millard West isn't the only team, but I think this team with the amount of guys that have signed to different schools already, again, you get a lot of guys that they, like you said, they've already checked out on the season. Why does this matter? It's just, a high school baseball season. But, for a lot of these guys, that could be some of their, best memories, best moments is playing in the spotlight of, the high school state championship for baseball. And, Millard West, they came into this season again, ranked number 1. Now they're 7-4. They're kind of a team that is going to be slept on for probably the rest of the season if they don't pick it up now. Obviously, 2 losses in a row. And I think one thing that has always been a thorn in Millard West's side and will continue to be their thorn if, they don't improve on this, it's their offense. They last season they actually broke a school record for lowest batting average in Millard West history. I'm not really sure on the number. I think Tyler Bandera told me it was around 230 as a team, which anyone knows just as well as I do that that is not going to win you ball games. Whether or not you have the best pitchers in the state, there's always going to be teams that find a way to get runs on the board. And Millard West definitely needs to pick up on their hitting. They're really struggling not only last year, not only the years before that, but this season they're really struggling to put runs up on the board. And obviously against a Class B Elkhorn team who held them to 0 runs, they really struggled. So yeah, I think this team really has a lot to improve on. And what is everyone's thoughts on kind of how the season is going for Millard West, and what do you guys think they might be able to improve on?
Well, without a doubt, it's still early in the season, but you're kind of looking at this team with the amount of talent they have, especially at the pitching mound with Peyton Wendell and Colby Gomez, who are going off to do bigger and better things in college. Wendell's going to Western Missouri State, and then you got Colby going to Nebraska. Kind of drawn back on what you said, they definitely have a lot to focus on, especially with their college futures, mattering more than their high school careers. I don't want to say it takes a draw away from the game, but the unfortunate truth is it probably does, especially since, they're so focused on what's ahead regarding then kind of what's happening in the now. And I think maybe that might be the factor that's drawn into these games. They've been losing games to, teams like Millard North and Elkhorn, which is, teams that we don't really expect to lose to, especially a Class B team like Elkhorn, who's now coming up and playing in Class A. And I think there's definitely room for improvement, like you said, but something's got to change for this team if they want to kind of keep stirring away from the 500 record, hopefully start getting more wins under their belt.
And I just kind of want to touch on the batting average thing. Some people could argue that with the new BB Core bats, offensive production is going to go down. And obviously that has some merit behind it because, they're not swinging those, it's not the gorilla ball era anymore where people are swinging composite bats and hitting at 500 feet with ease. But
You don't find cork bats in high school anymore, do you?
no, composite bats.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying.
No, they don't have the bats that they used to, but that doesn't explain a 230 average.
Mm-hmm.
A 230 average doesn't come because you're not hitting at 500 feet. It's because you're not being a good situational hitter. You're not swinging for contact with 2 strikes. You're not going the other way when they pitch outside. I think when your average is that low, it's more of a discipline thing than it is anything, or maybe it was just one of those things where early on in the season they were struggling and they just never recovered. But, you look at Elkhorn where it went 10 innings and they lost 1-0. Come May, you can't be having slip-ups like that, and especially at this team, because I think each year I say this about Millard West baseball, we have the talent to win it all, but it just never clicks at the right moment.
Well, if you look at the rest of their season, they play Buena Vista South, who is 3-8, Bellevue West, who is 6-6, and at Omaha North, which is 1-9. So they have a very good chance to finish out on a good note going into more tournament play.
Yeah.
So they should be improving. I don't think this losing streak will continue beyond.
Oh, I agree. I don't think this is pretty just recent. It's not. You can't really tell how the whole season's going to go based on 2 losses. It might be a shaky start, but you can't really tell like this is how the rest of the season will be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got strong hitters like Paul
They
Hinton.
do. They have the athletes.
You have Paul Hinton, and then you have Tyler Bandera, who also has power under the swinging a baseball bat. And I think that they just need more hitters to step up because they can't rely on just those 2 for games. And I think they'll be fine.
For sure, and having Bandera down there at the 8 spot, some would consider that a blessing. I mean, Tyler Bandera, usually you think him being a third baseman. Well, he just transitioned over to third this season. He was in the outfield. They transitioned him to third base, which I really like because, back in his select days, he used to always be a third baseman. That was his lockdown position. He played it, all throughout his select years. And, when he got to high school, he moved over to the outfield. He had a smooth transition, don't get me wrong. But they moved him away from that. And, the thing is, he can play both positions. So I really like where they moved him. It gets him a little more comfortable on the field, knowing he's been in this situation before, playing in the infield. He can be comfortable on defense and not have to worry about, making plays out in the outfield necessarily. And then, having him at the 8 position, he never really was an 8-hole hitter by any means. I mean, he is one of the more powerful hitters on that team. But when you have all these different players that you can choose from, having him down at the 8-hole really isn't a bad thing because, anyone on that lineup can hit. Don't get me wrong.
Plus, you got all the juniors coming in, like Jackson Wright and
Yeah.
Jackson Meyer, who also have some power. So
Yeah,
Well,
for sure. I mean,
Yeah, I totally agree with him in the 8th spot. I mean, some call it like a second cleanup spot, depending on how you shape your lineup, and I think that's what Millard West is trying to do. The worst thing I see teams do is, they stack their 1 through 6 because that's usually where the good hitters kind of tail off to the lower. That's where it starts getting bad. I mean, the 9-hole hitter was primarily your right fielder in Little League days. I mean, but I think the way Miller West has staggered it, and plus, I mean, at this point, if you're a good high school baseball team, you shouldn't have a bad hitter out there. So I think it's, when they get into the 7th inning and they look at their lineup and it's 7, 8, 9, they're not going to be one of those teams that is going to be like, oh no, we lost this game.
always opportunities, yeah, like you're saying. And, for this team, again, they do struggle on offense, but they've had their moments. And one thing you also got to look at is they struggle on defense. Against Millard South, they had 5 errors. I believe 4 of them by the shortstop, Max Anderson. Him being so young, being only a sophomore, and then having Tristan Gomez, kind of share that second baseman role for Millard West when his brother Colby's pitching has kind of been, a little shaky. Those guys being so young on the varsity level, you can't always rely on them. But, Millard West, they've had their difficulties, and I think it's really just about cleaning it up. Again,
absolutely,
they're just starting the season. We shouldn't be stressing now.
Exactly.
They got to get hot at the right time, and I think being 7-4, you don't really think about that too much. Besides the fact that they haven't really won a true tough tested game.
Yeah,
I mean,
I-
some could
they don't
argue.
have
I mean,
that.
it's not hands down by any means, but
I mean, if you look at it, their best win was, I think, against Scott.
yeah,
And that was a good win. Don't get
Mhm.
me wrong. I think Craig, you and me were calling that.
Yeah, the games that Strive's done, Millard West has looked good even when they lost to
Mhm.
Millard South.
Yeah.
Other than those errors, I
Yeah.
think they would have had a better chance at winning that.
But then sorry to interrupt, Craig, but then you kind of go back and then you look at teams like, remember, we lost early in the season to Lincoln Southwest. We were up by 5 runs in the last inning. All we had to do was close. And kind of going back on what you said, JD, that was a huge thing that we've struggled with. And we let in, I'm not saying that the underclassmen were to blame for this, but we put in some younger players who haven't had experience, thinking they could close out the inning and hopefully get the win for Millard West. They let up 6 runs in that inning. Unfortunately, handing Millard West the loss, but just finishing out on all levels is something that they definitely need to focus on.
And I think that's part of the growing pains with trying to incorporate because, besides, Jackson Rye and Garrett Kennedy, it's a pretty senior-dominated team, I'd say. And so, you have to find a way to incorporate the young players. I mean, Craig, we were doing the Scott game, and Ryan David came in to close it, and they had substitutions all around the field. Same thing, 5-run game, and I think Scott ended up getting 2 runners on with 1 out. I'm like, oh, is this gonna go south for the Wildcats? But Ryan David struck out a batter, then got the next one to ground out. So I think you have to be willing to accept growing pains as a team in order to have the future of your program go in the right direction.
That is true. That was a little shaky, but Millard West also was prepared. They were having someone, I think, run quick down to the bullpen if they would have needed him. It was a good game, though. I mean, I think overall, from what we've seen from Millard West live, they look good. They look like a team that, if they can put it all together, they'll be a force to be reckoned with at state. It's just tough sometimes when they aren't able to put it all together because they are a team that needs to play 100% each night.
For sure.
No, I agree. I think they have the potential to, but just not. They got to put stuff together first.
Yeah, and with all these young guys on the team, well, I mean, it's not every day that you get 8 or 9 seniors on a team, and I think that might be another issue is, usually we're looking at baseball teams that have 3 or 4 seniors that can help lead a team, but right now they're working with 8 or 9 guys who, you could say Colby Gomez is the leader, but, I mean, if we're being honest, he's kind of looking on to bigger, better things at this point. I mean,
So are most of those
Yeah.
seniors. How are you going to develop your team for the future years to come?
Yeah.
Especially those underclassmen that, if they can't finish out a game, then you guys might be in big trouble these next couple of years.
I don't think it's fair to say that all the seniors have already mentally checked out. I mean,
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. There's obviously still a lot of
It's a
seniors.
factor, but I mean, other teams are going through it. It's just one of those things where you kind of look at it where I'd say Gomez is a different. It's different than the other guys.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the guys are going off to community colleges, so they're going to be having the same thing happening 2 years from now, because they're going to try to get on to Division II, Division I schools. Gomez is different just because Nebraska. It's Nebraska. I mean, it's a Division I school, it's Power 5 conference. It's a factor. I don't know if it's the defining factor in a season.
no, I wouldn't say it's the defining factor.
well, guys, another thing you got to take into account is he's not only playing to, show up for Nebraska. He's also playing to get drafted.
True.
You got to think about that. He's been such a scouted player, and they actually said when him and Kyle were scheduled to pitch against each other in the Millard West Millard South the first game that they actually had just a couple weeks ago. They said there was about 15 to 16 scouts that were calling to see if they were both going to be pitching. So that just goes to show that these two, Kyle and Colby, those two are very, very highly scouted players. And again, Colby's got more than just going to Nebraska, or he's got more on the line.
That
Yeah.
makes sense.
So yeah, I think obviously they're having issues finding leaders, and again, something that they need to improve on. So,
Could I add one miscellaneous thing before
Yeah.
we wrap this up, JD?
Go
So
ahead.
I was looking on Nebraska Preps last week, and they were talking about all the classes and just the undefeated teams remaining. Ron Colley at that time, it was a week ago, so I don't know how it's changed still, was the only undefeated team with 1 game played.
They have 2 now, still
They
undefeated.
have 2 games
Yep.
played. They're
Only
2-0,
undefeated team in the state.
but they played 2 games total. This weather has kind of ruined the spring baseball season, I'd say. I mean, you could see Ron Colley, depending on if games get rescheduled, but I don't know if there's enough days to reschedule them. We could possibly see a team with under 10 games played be in the state tournament for, I think,
Yeah.
Class B.
For the first and only time ever, Ron Colley will be undefeated in anything.
Yeah, I mean, heck, if you look at the weather this week,
Yeah, and
today it's supposed to be nice, and then you turn around to the weekend, it's supposed to snow.
yeah, and I've played on
Classic.
the field, and their field isn't the
No,
greatest.
it's not the
Yeah.
best.
I mean, we've got a lot better facilities here at
Mhm.
Millard West, and that's saying a lot because some of our facilities could use some upgrading. But baseball, we've got one of the better fields,
Yeah.
so we've been fortunate. When it's rained the night before, we don't have to worry about the next day. But some of these smaller schools, when it rains, that can ruin their entire season.
For sure. And just to take a look in the top 10, obviously there was games played last night, and I know for a fact Millard South beat Papillion La Vista South, I believe 15-3. So they're definitely rolling right now. And the thing is, this Millard South team knows how to put up runs. They're a team that is a first pitch swinging type team. We saw it against Millard West. They were swinging the bats from the first pitch of the game, and that's really what I like about the Millard South team is they're not afraid to swing the bats, and they're not afraid to take chances when they're on the base path. And if you look at that, that's a team that can rely on their offense and defense for any given game. And I think Millard South just right now is clicking at the right time. They've got good chemistry, and Kyle Perry being a definite leader of that team is definitely what they need. We saw him do some of the same stuff for the basketball team. So I think Millard South might be our spring champions. It might be a bit early to make predictions, but I think Millard South is a team that, they're clicking. They got past Millard West. They've gotten past all these other teams, and I think really the only step left is just string together a couple more wins and, in my opinion, win a state tournament.
They definitely got the best chances, but I
Yeah.
still would rule out Millard West.
I think. Well, I'm curious. With Elkhorn South, are they playing in Class B or Class A state this year for baseball?
Class B is weird. Nobody knows.
I think it is Class A because
I
they
think
were
it
Class A
is.
for every sport this year besides football. So this is their.
I think it might be the calendar year that
I think it's
switch
this is
happens.
their first full season Class A. I
Mhm.
could be wrong, but
Yeah.
I
No,
do
yeah,
I
I
know
thought
in
I heard
basketball they played Class A
Yeah.
regular season.
Well,
then
if you
Class
notice for
B
if you
state.
notice for basketball, we went to their gym for a game and they had all Class A
Yep.
school logos on
Yeah,
their walls.
They started the transition, but
Yeah.
this is already the 2-year schedule for football. They were still
Mhm.
Class B at football this year, but
Okay,
in
yeah.
this fall will be their first year in Class
So
A.
it must be the calendar
So
year.
the
that's
turn of the
switch.
the turn of the year up into January, they probably started
They
moving
still
into
were.
Class A.
I think they were Class A in volleyball and softball this year, but I could be wrong about that. I think it was just football. Was
You know, you got football. That's probably the biggest transition anyway.
Yeah,
for
just
that's
because
basketball.
the
because
schedules are
the
made.
2-year
Yeah.
schedule.
Mhm.
No,
conflicted.
they're a team that we could see.
Elkhorn South.
I mean, it's the the top 10 schools. All of them. Baseball's a sport where it's not like football. We always talk about the solid top 4 and the soft top 6 for football. In baseball, I'd say there's Millard South and Crane Prep, and those are the two dogs, I guess,
Mhm.
that I think stand the best chance. Prep with a chance to three-peat, and the Millard South kind of has been there, just not able to kind of find their way to win it all. Kind of same struggles as Millard West. Or wait, no, Crane Prep did win it last year. But I'd say the rest of the schools, they all stand a chance, just depending on what team shows up come May.
Yeah, and I'd say only thing about any Class B school that's moving up, and I could be wrong about this, but I think looking at Class B schools that move up, we the Class A schools say, oh, this could be the team to come out and do something special. But I think for those Class B teams, they come into every single game saying, all right, now we're playing the big dogs. I don't know if we can run with these guys, and I think that's kind of those Class B schools adjusting to the new schools, playing those bigger, better schools, and coming into this basketball season, when I saw Elkhorn South on our schedule, I was saying, oh, Elkhorn South, are we going to be able to beat them? And sure enough, we came into that game and beat them by about 15. And I don't know if Elkhorn South really beat a decent Class A school for basketball. So I think a lot of Class A schools, they get kind of nervous seeing that Class B because they don't want to lose against a Class B school. And I think that goes for the Class B looking up,
It's definitely a big transition for both sides.
Yeah.
for sure.
For Elkhorn South, when they come up and they're playing basketball, that's their first time ever playing all these schools. So they've got a schedule full 30-plus games where they're playing a new team each night. Where it's same with baseball. I mean, obviously there's a little bit more mix between classes in baseball, but these Class A schools, they've only got to transition to playing a new team once every 10 games. So, and plus they don't want to get upset by a Class B school.
And another thing I want to mention is if you take a look at the Class A state championship compared to the Class B state championship for basketball, you see two totally different played games in pace, momentum, pretty much just skill and ability. I mean, though, just seeing the classes separated, it really gives you an idea of how different these two Class A and Class B schools are. And I think that's kind of where you'll see the difference. So I don't know if we'd see any Class B schools necessarily make a state title run.
No, it's too early for that.
Yeah. So yeah, we're just gonna go with the top 5 quick though for the Nebraska Prep Zone Baseball Top 10. So we have Millard South at number 1, undefeated. Not really surprised about that one. Creighton Prep reigning in at number 2. How could you leave them out of the top 2? I mean, it is Creighton Prep. They have been the top dog in every single sport imaginable for the last 20 years.
How could we not have talked about Creighton Prep yet?
And then obviously number 3, Millard West. After these last couple losses, I don't really see them moving up.
6.
Yeah. I think they will be dropping down here soon. And then number 4, Lincoln Southwest. That is definitely a team you got to keep on your radar, though. They have a lot of good hitters and a couple good pitchers. I know they lost, their 2 top guys. That's what Colby told me at a game. I saw them playing, and they were losing, and I was like, is this Lincoln Southwest? Or he's like, yeah, they apparently lost 2 of their better pitchers on the team, so they kind of struggle pitching, but they're still the same offensive, powerhouse that we've seen these past couple years. And then reigning in at number 5, Elkhorn South. I don't even know if we'd really consider them.
I would.
I mean, I don't know if they're
I
Class
haven't
A or
seen
Class
them-
B. They just played gross, so I don't know if
I
they're
think
really.
they might be finishing out Class B, but I also
Yeah, I
know,
don't know.
that we played Scott, and Scott's obviously Class B. So
Mhm.
baseball's weird.
And then number 6, I just want to add them in. Omaha Burke. I know they actually headed out to Arizona for a tournament, and I believe they played Oak Hills. I'm not sure. I keep saying that because I think that's what I heard. I'm not too sure, but I think they played Oak Hills. So, Oak Hills, they're a good basketball school. I'd imagine they're good at baseball. But again, a lot of teams to be looking out for. Millard West reigning in at number 3 so far. There will be updates coming for them. Folks, I think that's all we got to say about Millard West baseball. Does anyone else have anything to say to kind of wrap it up?
I think we've touched just about everything. I think we're good.
Alrighty,
I
this has
think
been JD
Craig's-
Wessel
Craig Sullivan.
Andrew Pfeiffer.
Jack Ward and Jaden Cover.
with the Wildcat Breakdown. We'll catch you guys later.